Okay, in the last part of the lecture, or the first part of the lecture, chapter 19, mentioned that diseases really helped Cortez and Pizarro in their conquest. And my question there was, what was the impact of the diseases upon Mexico? And I said the example of Mexico. Now, Mexico, because there were a lot of Spanish there and a lot of people through that area, they were particularly hard hit. Estimates are, and your textbook goes along with this estimate, as high as 25 million to fewer than 2 million people. I've got a picture of an ancient drawing supposed to represent smallpox or measles. Um, Killing off Native Americans. They had no resistance to this. Remember, we've talked about this before. These are diseases that have jumped from animals to humans. And so humans in Eurasia have been living with these, in Africa, have been living with these animals for 12,000 years or so. And so they're pretty used to these animals and these diseases. The Amerindians have no resistance. We've got a graph here showing them starting off with a population of about 25 in 1518, estimates are, down to around 2 by 1593. Now, what will happen to Native American population is as they develop resistance and as more and more people survive these diseases, they will eventually rebound. Their populations will start to rebound and they'll come back. Okay? Exploitation of the Amerindians. One of the first ways in which when Europeans arrive here, they need laborers. So they have the encomienda system. It's forced labor given to Spanish conquerors. What that means is, I've used this example before, but if you were the Spanish conquistador who came in and took over Frederick County, all the Amerindians living in Frederick County, all the Native Americans living in Frederick County would be subject to you and would have to give you a certain amount of labor a week, a month, a day, depending on how you determined it. And then they would go back to their own homes and grow their own food. Now, conquistadors like this because they don't, unlike a slave, they don't even have to provide them with food. Um, Unlike the African slaves who will come a little later, though, unfortunately for the Spanish, these guys are dying off due to many diseases. Also, the forced labor adds to the decline of native population. It's modified by the crown, partially because they feared some of these Spanish guys. You see him whipping a Native American here. They're afraid that they are creating this new aristocracy here in the colonies, and so they want to change that. There's also a moral reason for this. There are some uh, missionaries, Catholic missionaries, who are saying this system is cruel. And one of the great ironies of history, we've talked about this before, and one of the great ironies of history, uh, some of these priests will suggest that instead of using Amerindians, that they import slaves from Africa. So the maltreatment is shifted from one group to another group. They are forced to work the MITA system. The MITA system is much like the encomienda system, except it's usually not for agriculture, it's for mining. Natives are forced to work. Now here they are treated pretty much like slaves. They don't go home. They come and they must work in the mines for them. So here you've got the double whammy: hard, difficult labor mining combined with diseases will really do tremendous damage to Native American populations. All right, haciendas. Haciendas, what was the impact of the hacienda? The hacienda was a Spanish agricultural estate. Now, here's where things start to get interesting for the European colonists from Spain and Portugal who are here. Now they start to produce not just to be exported back to the Iberian Peninsula, back to Spain and Portugal, but now they are actually producing for domestic use. In other words, they grow things and they buy and sell within the Americas. This is big. This is big because it will give rise to a new aristocracy. It's what Spain had feared. It happens anyway, even though they would like to have tried to prevent it. Now, one of the big export products out of this part of the world is silver. Okay, so what was the impact of the silver trade upon the colonies and the core countries? Remember, the core countries are back in Europe. Silver trade becomes preeminent. One of the big places that it come out of here in northern South America and out of western Mexico. Uh, the Spaniards managed to claim it all and retain it and hold it for themselves. They send convoys across the Atlantic. You'll see we've got arrows going back across the Atlantic Ocean. They're generally protected by galleons. You'll see the galleons here were large Spanish ships that could carry large amounts of wealth. As you might guess, these galleons were targets for pirates, uh, particularly English and French pirates who could also be hailed as heroes back in England or France for taking wealth from the Spanish. Well, the Spanish just looked at them as pirates. What was the impact back in Spain? Well, one of the things it led to is it led to great inflation because there's a lack of manufacturing. In other words, and I'll try to remember to do an example with you in class on this, but think of it this way. If you take a lot of money, in this case silver, and you throw it at a certain amount of goods, the more money if everybody only has 1,000 cars to buy, and tomorrow I doubled the amount of money you had, I said, okay, we're going to give everybody twice as much money tomorrow. What would happen to the price of cars? Yes, it would go up, probably double, because people had twice as much money. So Spain does not increase its manufacturing. Now, had you had twice as much money, and done more manufacturing, had twice as many cars, then you would see people buying a lot more, not necessarily just inflation. It also brings a hefty stress on the Spanish banking system. It's not set up to handle this kind of wealth, and we end up with rampant inflation back in Spain. All right, we'll stop here for just a moment, take a break.